Are you or your child taking the SAT soon? This is going to be my 5 things you need to know before you go sit for the SAT. My name is Rebecca Beard, and I own a local tutoring company. I work a lot with test prep, and I actually go actively sit and take SAT test often with the students. So my first thing is to know that the math is very hard. If your child has not, or you have not completed Algebra 2, it might be kind of at this point impossible. So make sure that you know Algebra 2. And then the most important material on the math that is weighted in the score is actually going to be your Algebra 1 and your Algebra 2 material. Most students get really hung up on the geometry questions, but there's actually not that many. 70% of the score lives in Algebra 1 and the Algebra 2 material. So hands down, make sure you review it. Just because you've taken through all those classes and made an A in AP Calculus doesn't mean that it's going to naturally translate to a high score. You've got to review the fundamentals. And then number 2 is there's this beautiful graphing calculator called DESMOS. I love it. I hack it all the time. But if you do not show up with a handheld calculator, you are shooting yourself in the foot, because DESMOS is great for certain things, especially linear functions. But there is times that I move so much faster with this good old handy calculator. And if you don't want to buy an expensive one, go ahead and show up with a cheapo $10 one. I've got those too. And I, hands down, will still use DESMOS, but I'd rather have a calculator in my hand as well. You really have to think through time management, and that significantly helps me. And then also certain things I solve better in here than I would on Desmos. So just make sure you know when to use it and when to not. Okay, number 3 is I find most students do better, including myself, if I take the ELA section out of order. So kind of a summary with SAT is there is 2 modules of ELA and there's 2 modules of math. In the ELA section, you've got vocab, and then you've got the more long reading passages. Then you hit the grammar, and then you hit what I call the bulleted list, also known as the rhetorical analysis. So what tends to happen is students fly through the vocab, and then they take dang too long on the reading comprehension, but they already have background knowledge in that. And then they don't have any time for the grammar or the rhetorical analysis. I find that the grammar questions tend to actually be a little bit easier. Same with the bulleted list questions. So what I recommend to most of my students is they do the vocab, then they do the grammar, rhetorical analysis, and then go back and do the heavy reading comprehension ones, because their brain has warmed up and they're not going to run out of time on the easy ones. You got to think about how many points you can hit out of each category. Then number 4 is if you are missing really easy questions on Module 1 on either the math or the ELA section, that is kicking your score's butt. And what will happen is I will get kids in here that are like, yeah, I killed AP Pre-Calculus. I got a 5 in the exam. I got an A in the class. I'm like, great. Do you remember how to solve for a slope? And then they'll be like, no. Well, that is a problem, because even in the math section, if you are going and missing those really low weighted problems on Module 1, it's an adaptive test. So what it will do is everybody kind of gets the same-ish Module 1, and then it's going to pivot based on if you missed a lot of easy questions or if you pretty much got them all right, then you're going to get a harder Module 2, which means a better score. But if you are just blowing through thinking that you remember all of these really easy math problems, and maybe you do, but if you don't, it's going to kick you in the behind. And what I commonly do with students, and it's kind of painful, is my first 2 sessions, I am printing out paper practice tests from the College Board, and we are going through and making sure we are not missing math fundamentals. That's a big one. Same with ELA. It's a little less critical because a lot of the times that kids have been working on ELA, but what I've noticed is that they've commonly forgotten the grammar, and so that's what we're kind of going through and harping through those fundamentals. So that being said, Module 1 is going to be your critical thing, and if you're missing the easy stuff, it's going to bite you in the butt. And then number 5 is to know your grammar rules. Most kids have been tested on reading comprehension constantly. That's a really fresh skill. But the problem is they do not remember the grammar rules. I have a few ones that do, but most of them left them literally in middle school, because sometimes they've not covered them since middle school. Know your semicolons, know your commas, know how to place an introductory clause in there and what you're looking for. And hands down, please know how to use a singular versus a plural verb. That will make a world of difference. It doesn't mean that you're going to get every single grammar question right, but you got to get a few more right. So these are my 5 things to take the SAT. If you need some help, we have online tutoring and in-person tutoring, but we also have a digital AI platform that really goes into all of these types of questions. It gives you a little bit more of an advantage, and what's really nice is it gives you harder material than the college Blue Book free test, which is awesome. But anyway, looking forward to seeing you in the comments, and good luck with your studying.